Hey everyone, it's Justin
and Jordan
from Own Real Estate here in the San Mateo Bay Area Peninsula. Today we're going to talk about our experiences taking the real estate exam, what you could do to prepare, and what to expect when taking the test.
And Justin and I are both licensed real estate agents that passed on their first time. So today we're just going to share some tips and tricks to hopefully get you guys to pass your first time as well.
So the background on the test, there's two types of tests. There's a salesperson test and a broker's test. Salesperson test consists of 150 questions and you are allotted 3 hours to take it, and you need at least 70% to pass.
And for your broker's examination, it's 200 questions, 4 hours to take that, and you need 75% to pass.
I guess the first question I have for you is, how did you prepare for the exam and what resources did you use?
So I actually used Leung Real Estate School, being that I'm from California here. And what I did is I actually generated a number of questions after I took my course to kind of simulate what the actual exam will be like. For example, you can choose a number of questions, go through categories of what you think you struggle with more. For example, if you think you struggle with financing more, which personally I did, I went over the financing questions a lot more.
Really look for the different types of resources that are out there in terms of learning your real estate material, right? So he used Chamberlain Real Estate School and I used Kaplan Real Estate Educational School. And with that one, it was a different type of learning experience, right? Mm-hmm. So with mine, I had more books, more textbook, and online webinars as well. At this point, it matters if you want it more hands-on or more hands-off, and really depending on your studying habits.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, everything that you're going to see on the course is actually not going to be applicable for a day-to-day salesperson like myself. So what I will say is, if you're seeing yourself spending too much time going through your course, it may not benefit you, you know? Personally, for me, I actually skipped through a little bit of my course, and I actually allocated more of that energy into studying for the vocabulary and parts that I struggle with in preparation for the exam.
A great resource to you is talking about vocabulary is actually a website called Prep Agent. Mm-hmm. And with Prep Agent, you really learn the key foundations and core concepts of the real estate terminology that are going to be present on the test. Something I want to challenge you as the viewer to do if you are studying for the real estate exam is ask yourself, what are these topics about? And really start to explain it to yourself and to a family member or a friend. And from there, you're able to see where your strengths and weaknesses are.
One thing to keep in mind is all this TED exam really is it's an enhanced vocabulary test. You're going to be throwing a lot of vocab. If you can understand all of it and understand what they're asking and the situations that they put you in, you'll be in good shape for the exam.
All right, Jordan, how long did you study for?
One thing to keep in mind is after you apply to actually take the exam, the DRE for us in California took over a month to actually process my application to get my date. So once I did get my date, I took about 3 weeks before my exam, studying every day. I say to start off maybe like an hour each day, and when it comes close to your test date, ramp it up to a couple hours, maybe 3 hours each day.
So with the websites that we've provided, we're not sponsored or anything, but look at everything as a general test first, and then from there, really pinpoint what areas of work you needed, right? Yeah. And there's exams, practice exams that do focus on certain aspects.
How do you apply for the exam, and what do you actually need to apply for it?
For sure. Well, all of this information could be found on your state's Department of Real Estate website. For us here in California, it's going to be dre.ca.gov. And from there, you're able to see all the information you need in terms of submitting your application, some of the preferred schools of where you can take some of your classes and how many hours, right? And also your current processing times for applications, renewals, and license changes. This was a saving grace in figuring out, hey, I just submitted my application, and I'm trying to figure out when I could take my test, right? Because it's gonna take a while. But with this handy tool on the website, you're able to see exactly what date they're currently working on.
And in terms of what you actually need to apply for the exam, one, you're gonna need a certificate of completion for the course that you did, or just some kind of college course that proves that you did the real estate studying. Two, you're gonna need to get your thumbprint taken. Personally for me, I just went to a UPS, got it done there, they shipped it out to me, like super easy. And last but not least, just some kind of valid California ID.
As for where you could take the exam, where do you take yours?
Yeah, so I took mine in Oakland, here in the Bay Area.
And I took mine in Sacramento. So you could also find all of the places that you could take your test on that California or your state's website. All right, Jordan, describe the steps when taking the test from when you arrive at the facility to getting your results.
Before your exam day, make sure you don't cram. That's one of the main things that people really fail is they try and cram all the day before and they don't retain enough information. So make sure you do all your studying beforehand, and the day before, stop studying after 7 p.m., right? Give your brain some time to rest, have a high protein dinner, make sure you're nice and ready for the day after for your actual exam. Some good advice I'd say is get there early. You don't want to be that guy coming in late, struggling, sitting down. You're not in a good test-taking environment if you come in not prepared.
Yeah, I suggest maybe getting there 30 minutes early, 15 to 30 minutes earlier than your test time, so you could really prep inside the car and really refresh your memory about the terminologies and concepts like we talked about before. Right when you arrived at the facility, you're gonna be able to go to the front desk, they're gonna collect all of your information, and they're gonna give you a set of keys for your locker, right? And from there, you can put in your phones, keys, wallets, anything of that sort.
So when you get into your actual examination room, you get a whiteboard. What I personally did was I wrote down all the acronyms I learned from studying. That way it will help me out for the exam. So for example, I wrote down Maria, Pete, T-tips, stuff like that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure to look up these acronyms after because they are super essential to knowing for the exam.
And after you finish your exam, feel free to review all the questions, but the one thing I would suggest when taking the test is don't doubt yourself and don't change any answers that you weren't sure of in the first place, because usually the first answer you put is probably the most correct one. And changing that answer later in the test, it will probably jeopardize your test results.
And keep in mind, you're dealing with 150 questions. Even if you know all the content, your brain's gonna get tired eventually. So I would suggest taking some kind of water or bathroom break in between. That way you can gather yourself, gather your thoughts, and then come back and finish the rest of your test.
And other tips and suggestions for potential test takers is look at all of it's a multiple choice test, right? So look at all the answers before you even read the question. That way, if any of the vocab words in the answer is something that you really know, then going back to the question is something you can just really apply and it'll just be much easier.
So one thing to keep in mind for the actual exam is there's actually no math. I know a lot of people worry about the financial part and maybe your coursework has gives you like math equations and stuff. The actual exam itself, don't worry, no math. I'm not good at math myself, so I was really glad to hear that.
Although there's no math, it is important to know how much square foot is in a mile and all those informations because that will be on the test. All right, everyone. So with everything that Jordan and I talked about today, this was just a quick summary about what is actually going to be on the test. Stay tuned for more information about the more in-depth details about what to prepare on the test in terms of vocabulary and where to find some of these resources.
And if you have any questions or just want to know more about the exam, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to answer some questions.
We hope you feel a little bit more prepared to take your exam and we wish you luck.